Hello and welcome to part 2 of this month's layout update. In this part we'll take a look at the work for the main running lines, but I've now got the next piece of cork underlay down and also the foam incline riser underneath. There'll be some trains running on the layout. And finally, a look at the work at the very back of the container depot. I've got the final bits of track down, including the cork around the uncoupler units. Welcome back to part 2 of this month's layout update, where in part 1 I explained the work that I had done around the entrance to the container depot here and fitting the last few points. I also explained some of the work that's been going on here for the main running lines and also looking at the incline approach at the back end of the garage. I've been progressing further now along these main running lines, adding in another 2 lengths of flexi track with the concrete sleepers all spaced out by hand and eyesight, and then it also goes to another section of flexi track here as well. Comes along the raised embankment, and also along there I've propped some card underneath the sleepers here on the outer track to give a bit of a banking effect as it goes around the corner. So that'll hopefully be looking really nice once I get some trains running. And in the background here as well, I've put another length of flexi track for each of the container depot sidings at the back, and I've got as far as the end of here. So this is the current work site now at this end of the garage, as these 2 tracks on the main running lines start to come back down off the embankment. I've already got the section of baseboard in on top of some spare woodland scenic risers. In the gap here at the front, I've got the track ready, but I need to put down the riser there between the end of the embankment that I just finished and these corner pieces coming around here, which again I explained at the very end of the last update. At the very back, I've now also gone as far as cutting out the holes for the uncoupler units. I've got 3 of those for each of the 3 sidings, so that when a loco comes to the very back here, it can be decoupled from the container rake. I've put those in now because I've measured out from those 3 lines that I've finished here, and you'll see the pencil marks on the baseboard here. I've measured those out in a straight line down the container depot to where these uncoupler units need to go. In a future video, there'll be a much more detailed look at installing one of these uncoupler units. The next part of the layout build here now needs to be filling in the gap between the end of the embankment coming down here and also the incline approach for these 2 running lines here. So putting down some cork underlay and then putting on top of that the track pieces, as well as not forgetting then gluing down the Woodland Scenics foam incline riser. And then at the back here, now that I've got those holes drilled for the uncoupler units and those also are wired up, I can now put down over the top of the baseboard join here, now that I'm happy with where they are and the installation that I've done thus far, and put another cork sheet towards then the very back of the garage here, and again lay the track. So next part is to now get on with that and show you the progress shortly. I'm now about probably halfway through completing the track work for the main scenery area. So in the container depot here, I've added another 3 lengths of track. The last one there is still being weighted down with the wooden blocks and the dumbbell weights. These have been glued down using Copydex glue, and similar process to how I've laid down the rest of the sort of scenery area track rather than pinning it down with trap pins. And I've also then gone right up to the edge of the uncoupler units, and I'll come back shortly to do this area at the back here and lay the track over the top of those units and put in the buffer stops for the very end of the container depot. If we then come down onto the main running lines, the track is still where it was at the start of this update, but I've now got the next piece of cork underlay down and also the foam incline riser underneath. This then now carries on down to where I'd previously remodelled the incline coming into the scenery section, and so now I've got those cork underlay sheets down on top of the incline and joining up with the previous work I did. Next job is to fit this piece of track in here, as well as then a very small piece of track to join it up and have the full running lines connected all the way around the layout. The main running lines are now complete, so I've added in two small sections of track here before it then comes down off the foam incline riser here for another two sections of flexi track, and then joins up with the work I did previously coming around this corner. The weights here are just pinning down a few bits of the sleepers which didn't completely glue themselves to the pieces of card I put underneath for the banking effect as it goes around the corner, which leads onto the incline. So now I've got the whole track connected up for the whole of the running lines. I'll add a bit of insulation piping to the back of there to stop any derailments, and then underneath all this I'd already attached the wires, so it's a matter of now wiring it up to the terminal blocks underneath, and once these have set here, hopefully giving it a good clean and start testing some trains around the running lines. These are just some of the wires coming down from the scenery section. The ones on the left are from the container depot, and the ones on the right are from the main running lines. I did the work on the DCC bus wires before I put down the top baseboard, so this has made this a lot easier now to hopefully cut down the dropper wires to the necessary lengths to make this look all tidy, feed them into the terminal blocks, and then that should be ready to be powered up on the scenery level above. The wiring has now been tidied up. All of those go into the right terminal blocks, and I've also then just very quickly tidied up the fiddle yard. Just put two trains back in there for the time being. I've got to move some more in there, and then I'll be using the trains down there to clean the layout. So I'll now get on with that to clean the track. And in the next part you should see some trains running through the scenery section. I hope you enjoyed that section there of the layout update, seeing the trains finally running on the Trent Valley Railway once again. But I just want to quickly first of all show you then, these are the track cleaning wagons which have the foam pads on the bottom of the weights, and you can see there that is the amount of muck that came off the rails before I sent those trains around that you've just seen. So it's always important to clean the rails and make sure everything is running well before you basically get into running lots of different trains on the layout. I will now give it another clean to try and keep it on top of the cleanliness of these main running lines. If we now move over to the work I've been doing as well at the very back of the container yard, I've got the final bits of track down, including the cork around the uncoupler units, glued all that in, got the track down here, and over in the corner I've got one of the Accurascale Rory buffer stops with a light. There'll be one of those for each of those siding roads, but as you'll see, the loco will sit between the uncoupler unit and the buffer stop at the back, and then there'll be a scenery partition at the very back before it gets to the wall. So I'm happy with how this section has now turned out. I'll give those uncoupler units a bit of a test, make sure they're all working on the DCC, and then what I'll do is then send the first container train into the container sidings here, coming in all the way down from this end down here, across these points and into the container yard. So we'll now watch one of the first trains come in there and see a few more trains as well, both on the main line and also coming into the container depot. I've got a bit more work to do around the container depot to finish it off, add in a few sleepers where the joins are in between the flexi track, and also complete the shunt neck. I'll hopefully complete that over the next month. So thanks very much for watching, and stay tuned for more updates from the Trent Valley Railway.